Jesus Christ. You would have thought I would have came prepared. Welcome back to episode 3 of Leave My Saturday here on the Sports Media YouTube channel. I am your host, as always, Garrett Burrows. We'll be flying solo in this week's episode. Sorry, this is coming out a little bit later than normal. Had some travel stuff earlier in the week. Schedules weren't really lining up to do this yesterday. We're supposed to have Chickster on here as well. Think he's probably asleep at the moment. Send him the invite. Haven't heard back from him in the group chat. So we're flying solo in this one. That's all well and good. The 5 games we're going to be going over in this week's slate is USC Michigan, which you can see on your screen. I got it preloaded, so it's not just my ugly mug on your guys' screen. We're going to talk about Tennessee, Oklahoma, Illinois, Nebraska. Want to chat really quickly about James Madison and UNC and Clemson and NC State, because I feel like there is some self-reflection about the Clemson and NC State game that needs to happen. I want to start off really quickly with 2 news pieces, and I have some I have to get off my chest really quickly at the forefront of this episode. That's what we're going to start off with. At the beginning of this show, not this week, but as a whole, episode 1, we're at episode 3, going back to episode 1. The premise of this show was to be a recap show. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing over the top, nothing exceptionally special, but this show is going to be for the people who didn't have their Saturdays left alone, right? We're going to go over some of the big games, look at the stats, talk about it really quick, get at it really fast. It's come to my attention that apparently the show sucks, and it's a Wikipedia page. Well, I'm confused on where the misunderstanding took place, right? Because this show, through 2 episodes, and we're going to do the same exact thing in this episode as well. We're not going to change up a single thing. We've delivered exactly what the show has said it was going to be. Recap show. That's it. I can't show footage of plays without getting trademark DMCA videos struck down, whatever, copyright issues, you name it, right? So we hit exactly what we're aiming for. But apparently to some, this show is a Wikipedia page. Nothing more, nothing less. And I'm curious where the disconnect is in some people's brains, right? Like, maybe the medicine was kicking in a little bit too early for some people. Maybe that's the problem. But we're doing exactly what this show is intended to be. Nothing more, nothing less. And to be completely honest with you, if you have an issue with the Wikipedia page that is this show, I encourage you to go and watch some of the other YouTube shows on the Vendetta Sports Media YouTube channel. I'll give you a second to think about it. There's one consistent episode on this entire YouTube channel, and that's the great work that James Herrick and the boys do with Eight-Sided Freaks. That show's great. Check that out. That's all well and good. But to say that this show sucks and it's a Wikipedia page, not give any sort of recommendation how to fix it, whatever, when this show is one of only 2 regular shows on top of the 2 other shows that I do each and every week here as well. This is my 4th running weekly show that I've done for this YouTube channel since the calendar year has started. We've done Draft Busters, which quite like. That's good stuff. Good draft insight. Hard Locks NFL, Hard Locks College Football, leave my Saturdays alone. So if there's an issue with this show, maybe talk to some other folks. Maybe get some other shows running. If this show is such an issue, right? Get some other folks running some shows and then come back to me and we can talk about this show. But until that time, till you understand that this show does exactly what it set out to be, and it's a quick hitter recap, maybe figure it out. That's all I'm saying. 2 things I want to talk about really quick that happened in the world of college football is the UNLV, we'll call it sort of a scandal with Matthew Sluka. Is that how you pronounce his name? Sluka. Sluka. Matthew Sluka was the quarterback for UNLV when he was recruited there, transferred there. all well and good, promised $100,000 to be there. And as the story goes, as it stands, he has not received almost any of that money. As a matter of fact, if I can find the right number, I think it's something like he's only received $8,000, $13,000 of this promise, this unfulfilled offer, and he has since taken his red shirt, and he will be entering the transfer portal. And I kind of think of this two ways, right? One, get on it, right? If you were promised something to go to this school and they're not living up to their end of the bargain, I'd get the fuck out too. I would. I would get the fuck out too. So good on him for standing up for what's right, because it's not fair that UNLV is doing this to him. However, I'd like to read you his stats from this year, if I may. Let's go to the game log here really quick. In 3 games where UNLV has won, by the way, they were 3-0 on the year. They opened with Houston, 6 of 13 for 71 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. Hosting Utah Tech, very formidable opponent. 8 of 17, 161 yards, 3 touchdowns. And on the road in Kentucky, picked up a win for Kansas, 23-20, 7 of 18, 86 yards, and a touchdown. So it's all well and good that your 6 touchdowns, 1 interception ratio on the year. That's great. But my friend, you have not thrown for over 40% completion percentage the entire year. Like, you kinda stink. Like, you're not very good. Let's just call a spade a spade. Your play is far. So on the other hand, I don't necessarily blame UNLV for not wanting to give you all the money, because you are definitely failing to meet expectations, right? So, yes, if I had to pick a side in this, I'm gonna stand with Fluka, right? You were a promising big institution. I understand it. But there needs to be a moment of self-reflection here where you say to yourself, "I'm not I'm not cutting it," right? The team's 3-0. They're potentially flirting with that group of 5 bid for the playoff potentially if everything falls according to plan for them, maybe, if they keep this kind of this level of play up. But at the same time, brother man, you're not very good. So, it makes you wonder. I'd be curious to see your guys' thoughts. Comment down below, either in the chat or once this video is posted after the live stream is over. Just drop your comment. Know what you think. And the other thing I wanted to talk about really, really quickly, we'll get into the games, is Jackson Arnold being benched by Brent Venables and the Oklahoma staff. Uh, Brent went on to say that he envisions Jackson Arnold having a long, great career, right? But we've made the pivot to a true freshman whose first start will be on the road at Auburn. Now, I'm not necessarily going to sit here and tell you guys that Auburn is such this formidable opponent, right? That Auburn is one of the best teams in the SEC, because they're not. They're coached by Hugh Freeze, who's got rocks for brains. But you already have Jackson Arnold, who, for the majority of the season, has looked better than most people expected, right? There have been stretches where it's looked bad, but the flashes show what kind of potential Jackson Arnold has, right? But we make the move to a true freshman on the road in Auburn. Again, Auburn's not a great team. It's a hard place to play, though. An SEC game coming off the heels of the Tennessee loss, which we're going to get to here in a little bit. But we make that, like, now we make the switch, right? Now we make the switch, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Jackson Arnold is the guy you want to roll with. He's got the most talent, right? We're gonna go through his game log as well, because again, flashes of greatness, stretches of poor play as well. Opened the season hosting Temple, 17 for 25, 4 touchdowns. Hosting Houston, 19 for 32, 2 touchdowns and a pick. Tulane, 18 for 29, 1 touchdowns and a pick. The real stinker of the game this year was that game hosting Tennessee, where he went 7 for 16, 54 yards and an interception, right? We have 3 games over 115 quarterback rating, 68 62% completion percentage. That's not bad for like I believe he's a true sophomore. Might be a true sophomore, maybe redshirt sophomore. Like, what do you expect? This Oklahoma team was not set up to make a run in the SEC. Jackson Arnold got you to, was that 4-0? 3-1. 3-1, I apologize, because I just said that they dropped the game to Tennessee. That's entirely fair. That's on me. But to make the switch after one game against the team that might be playing for a national championship, now is when you make the move? I would have at least given him the Auburn game as well before I even, like, have the internal thought of benching Jackson Arnold. I probably wouldn't have benched him at all this season unless we get 3 or 4 games this year where he's going 40% completion percentage and interception or touchdowns, right? But to make the move now makes absolutely no sense. And Brent Venables, like, he should be on the chopping block just for that move almost, I would argue. Like, it's such a boneheaded move to make now, 4 games into the season, where he's had flashes the first 3 games. And yeah, I think a lot of quarterbacks as a potential true sophomore are gonna struggle against one of the best teams in not only the SEC, but in the country in Tennessee. It doesn't make any sense to me. Let us know in the comments down below. If you're in the live chat, sound off in the live chat as well what you think about the benching. We're going to move on to the 5 slate of games that we are going to talk about here really quick that I said at the top. Our first game we're going to chat about really quick is the 11th ranked USC Trojans who travel to Michigan, to Ann Arbor to play the Wolverines. So it's going to be USC's first big time test, their first Big Ten matchup. They went on the road in the Big House. First time they played there in 60 some odd years. Michigan made the switch this week to Alex Orji because the former quarterback isn't fit to play at any Division I program. That kid is a bum. That kid really stinks. And to be fair, Alex Orji didn't look necessarily very good either. Now, granted, he wasn't asked to do much, but a lot of his throws, short, intermediate throws, wasn't really pushing the ball down the field a whole ton. And when he did, errant throws, accuracy, which is kind of what you get with Alex Orji. 7 for 12, 32 yards, quarterback grading of 26. Other side of the ball, Miller Moss had a decent day. I'm not going to go out and say he looked great. Kept this team in contention for sure. 28 to 51, almost 300 yards, 3 touchdowns, did throw a pick, right? What I want to highlight here is 2 players. I mentioned last week, Kalel Mullings, as he was either one of my players of the week last week, or I shouted him out during the Michigan game that we talked about last week as well. But for all the hype that Donovan Edwards was getting coming into the year, now that Blake Corum's in the NFL, Kalel Mullings might be better than Donovan Edwards. I think I don't know that I would go as far as to say that at this moment, but man, Mullings showed patience. The vision was great. He waited on certain runs. He waited for holes to open up in the interior, the offensive line. Great footwork, balance. He looked really, really sharp in this game. And on the other side of the ball, Zachariah Branch, the freak athlete for USC, great game, 6 catches for 98 yards as well. One thing to note as well after this game is this fella right here, Bear Alexander, one of the best defensive tackles on this team, if not the best defensive tackle on this team, announced that he was going to be exercising his red shirt, and he plans to enter the transfer portal as well. That should be a red flag for any program in the country of prominence who wants this kid. Why? Because he originally, let me make sure I don't butcher this, but I believe that he was originally a Georgia Bulldog, and he transferred to USC. And then, if I'm not mistaken, before the season started, he was thinking about entering the transfer portal again, and then came back, and now is entering the transfer portal again. So how can you trust that this kid's? I mean, I get the argument. How can you trust that any kid's going to stay at any program, right? But how can you look at Bear Alexander and go, "That's a guy I want in this program"? because he's gonna give me everything he has, and he is going to be a difference maker and stay with this program long term. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening, and bless whatever school he ends up going to. I hope Bear Alexander plays great for them. But man, if I am the head coach of one of these programs, I just don't think I can do it. I really, really don't. We are moving on now to Tennessee and Oklahoma. Tennessee picked up a 10-point win against the Sooners this past week. We talked about it. Jackson Arnold, 7 for 16. True freshman right here, Michael Hawkins Jr., 11 of 18 with a touchdown. Didn't play too bad. Nico the Floor is Lava, which is what Chickster coined him as, and that's what we're going to go with going forward. A solid game. Looked good on the ground, had a 16-yard run in this one, 13 for 21, almost 200 yards and a touchdown. That looked really well. I did make 2 notes that I want to chat with you guys with really quick. 2 players that stood out to me. Let me pull up my notes here really, really quickly. Jermod McCoy for Tennessee stood out like a sore thumb in this one in the best way possible. In the absolute best way possible. He is a corner for Tennessee who's draft eligible in next year's draft cycle. Go down to where right here. He had 3 tackles and a pass defense in this one. He was locking up some of these receivers on the outside, locking up guys like Petaway, Bo Sharp, had a really good couple of routes against Deion Burks as well. Gerard McCoy has all the makings of one of the top corners in the cycle of 26. I love his back pedal, his pad level always made a very, very even keel, rangy, good hands, a very active point of attack. He was really, really sharp in this one. And then the other player I chat about really quick is Omar Norman Lott, who has been wreaking havoc in flashes during the season, but it seemed like he lived in the backfield this past week. He only had 1 tackle in this one, and it was a solo tackle. It didn't get any registered sacks or anything like that, but he was disruptive in the middle, constantly claiming double team, active hands. The motor seemed to be running pretty hot. It seemed to be running hot, seemed to be running hot almost the entire season. He looked really, really good in this one, and for a defensive tackle, I'd keep my eye on him as one of the risers potentially in this or next year's class as well. We're going to move on to Illinois and Nebraska. This is a massive win for the Fighting Illini. Nebraska coming off the heels of a pretty dominant victory against bitter rival Colorado, and then sort of, I don't want to say fell flat in this one. I think they were let down by their run game. Dylan Raiola did almost everything that he could. I think that the Illinois offense was just way more balanced. If you take a look at your rushing stats here, kind of in the middle of your screen, I'll set up a little bit better for you here. So it's at the top underneath the bar here. Leading rusher, 72 yards by Dante Bowdwell. That's solid. Yardage wise, at least 3.6 yards per carry isn't necessarily what you want, especially when the other side of the ball, we've got 3 ball carriers who average more than that, led by Caden Fagan with 69 yards. Nice. At almost 6 yards a carry. That was really, really solid. I want to shout out Luke Altmaier in this one. If he's not on your radar, he probably should be here soon. He's draft eligible this year as a junior. Let's go to the game logs for you. I don't know why I didn't pull up the stats for the players before. So that's my bad. You guys could have actually like seen it, you know? On the year, 71.4% completion percentage is really, really solid. This Kansas team, no easy slouch. You got the win there. I believe Jalen Daniels, almost 200 yards, no turnovers, kept the ball really clean, high passer rating, pretty decent QBR at 72.4. He looked really, really composed in this one in an environment in Nebraska that's becoming a hard place to play as of late with the resurgence of the program under Raiola, under Matt Rule. that place is going to become harder and harder to play, and especially off the heels of the Colorado one, like I said, that place was juiced, and Allmeyer never looked like the moment was too big for him. Very posed in the pocket, good pocket awareness, made the right decisions, really excelled at those short to intermediate throws, which is really what you want. I'm not gonna go out and far I'm not gonna go out there as far to say as Luke Altmaier should be one of the top quarterback prospects in the class. But if you're one of these teams looking for good depth in that late day to early day 3, I wouldn't hate spending a 4th round pick on a flyer of Luke Altmaier. He's got some intangibles that you can really, really work with, and at 6'2", 205, he's got the nice frame that you want to work for and to work with and just let him, like, develop in your program. We have to talk about this James Madison and UNC game. Some of these, like, I don't wanna call them smaller schools, that seems almost disrespectful, but these non-5 schools are putting up some offense this year. Georgia Southern blowing the doors off of people, almost dropped 100 this year. James Madison going into North Carolina, which is a really fun environment. I was there 3 years ago, 2 years ago. I got to see Drake May play. That was really, really cool. And that's where my Storm Duck came to be. If you don't know Storm Duck, you better look him up. He's a decent corner playing okay in the NFL so far. So the environment in UNC isn't necessarily the easiest place to play. And these guys, the Dukes went and hung up 70 on him. Alonzo Barnett, an absolutely great game. 22 of 34, very clean game with no turnovers, 5 touchdowns, almost 400 yards. And then not only that, he also had 99 yards on the ground, 7 total touchdowns for Alonzo Barnett. It is absurd. It is also worth noting that UNC's Omarion Hampton, touted as one of the better running backs in the entire country. I believe Chickster had him as RB2 coming into the year. Has really kept up his pace of play as well. 7.3 yards per carry, 139 yards, 3 touchdowns on the ground. Hampton, I'm not necessarily sure I can put him as one of the top running backs in the class for me. I think that he has displayed times where the vision is improved from the year prior. I still think he lacks all of that clear vision you need to show the patience behind the line of scrimmage, wait for those holes to develop. I think that area of this game is still developing, but he can hit those bombs. He can hit those home runs. He has a nose for the end zone. He's one of the leading rushers this year in college football, and I'm curious to see where he kind of projects at the next level. But man, these Dukes are putting up some points, and if you're a betting man, which hopefully some of you are that watch this, because I'm a betting man myself, maybe start taking some of those overs on James Madison. I mean, this game put up 120 points. They probably hit the over at the first half. Let's see, 21. But yeah, the over probably crushed at the end of the first half, which is absolutely ridiculous. Their last game is going to be Clemson and NC State. I feel like I had to talk about this one simply because of my preseason ACC prediction, which you can find on the districtv.com. I'm all about being transparent and putting my hand up and saying that I've gotten some things wrong. I'm not perfect, obviously, and I may have been too early on this NC State team. I may have ate too much of the cheese. It happened, you know? It absolutely happened. Now, it's almost a double-edged sword for me because I also don't think Clemson's any good. Yeah, they hung up 59. They were at home in Death Valley, the faux Death Valley. It's not the real Death Valley. We all know that. It's LSU. But Dabo can't coach a winning program with his philosophy of not entering the portal and not hitting the portal and grabbing some of these transfers. It just can't happen. It cannot happen by any circumstance whatsoever. Cade Klubnik, clean game, 209 yards, 3 touchdowns. They were really, really leaning on the rush attack in this one. Phil Maffa, 107 yards, only 7 carries with a touchdown. 4 of their touchdowns came on the ground. Cole Turner with a touchdown. Jay Haynes, Cade Klubnik even got in there as well. He had a 55-yard run in this one as well. It like this NC State team has shown flashes of being very, very good, right? I think Kevin Conception, I'm sure it's not how it's pronounced, but that's what we're gonna call it. He's the ultimate gadget guy. I would want him on my team at the next level. 100% would want him on my team at the next level. He has a nose for the open field and excels with the ball in his hand, and there's always room for guys on my team like that. And then I wanna shout out really quickly, TJ Parker with 2 massive sacks, 5 total tackles in this one. The swim move, the rip move, he looked powerful in his lower half. He was beating up on this offensive line most of the night, found himself in the backfield more often than not. He ended up with 2 sacks. That's awesome, but he could have ended the game with, like, 3.5, 4 sacks. Genuinely could have. He always seemed to be in the backfield disrupting CJ Bailey almost the entire game. Now, for the end of the show, we always bring you our players of the week. We chatted about him a little bit ago. My player of the week is going to be I just had his stats pulled up. Shoot. James Madison, QB. Alonzo Barnett. Thank you. Took me fucking long enough to pull it up. Alonzo Barnett's my player of the week. Anytime you get 7 total touchdowns, over 400 yards total offense as the quarterback, I don't care what anybody else does. 7 total touchdowns is absolutely ridiculous. That's the reason Ashton Jeanty won it in week 1 because he went out berserk. It was a 6 rushing touchdowns in week 1. Don't care who it's against. You put up that level of production, defenses, even if they make those adjustments and he still can't stop you, no questions. That's my player of the week, Alonzo Barnett from James Madison. Please remember that this is a recap show. We're going to highlight some players, go over the box score, some of my takeaways. We're going to keep it moving. If this Wikipedia page ain't for you, go watch another one of the shows on the channel. That's right, you can. There's really only one that's consistent. If you liked the video, please be sure to leave a thumbs up. Comment down below some of your thoughts. What are your take on the Jackson Arnold benching? Matthew Solk was he in the right? Is he in the wrong? If you haven't subscribed to the Dennis Sports Media YouTube channel, why haven't you? Press the subscribe button, ring the bell so you don't miss any more uploads coming out of this YouTube channel. We're going to see you next time.